Yeah, I do.
We'll do it live. All right, folks, welcome to a special episode of No One Asked Us. For anybody out there who is actually watching at 4:30 Eastern on a Thursday afternoon, we have the ever amazing Jeremy Potter. I don't have a bio for Jeremy because if you're actually in the mortgage industry and you don't know Jeremy, I don't know what rock you've been living under. So truly, like, we'll just jump right in. Like, I was at Jeremy and I were both at the AI Summit this week. Jeremy introduced me to, I think, about 36 people over the course of about 24 hours. So thank you very much, Jeremy, for doing that for me.
Yeah, right on. Good to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you.
Mace and PK, I'm going to let you guys drive the questions a little bit more here today. We've got Jeremy for a half hour, and then we'll see what goes from that. If there's anybody who is watching live, feel free to drop any questions into the chat, and we will do our best to answer as many as we can from that perspective. So,
Roger that. Chris, you want to kick it off with the question we were talking about just right before this?
Yeah. So I was asking Jeremy before we got on Andrew a little bit about like the people, like what was the general vibe of the attendees here? Was it a lot of experts or was it a lot of people just hungry for more info?
Yeah, it's a good question. I thought it was a pretty good mix of the lender decision makers in the tech vertical. So either a CTO or a product manager for some sort of piece, implementation, or product. So for most of the other conferences, you get, a CEO for sure, but then like sales and marketing or other types of leaders. I thought this event did a pretty good job of pulling out some of the tech leadership or decision makers in tech. That was a part of who I talked to. I also thought there were more AI founders there than I expected. Not that I didn't expect there to be any, but just like younger people, newly graduated software engineers who have a startup, 3-4 people type things. I talked to more of them than I anticipated. So those were kind of the two bookends. And then you might consider me, one of the usual suspects. There were some usual suspects there too, typical analysts or evaluators of the industry or innovators on stage, stuff like that. But I did think there was a different type of lender team member, lender leader than might usually go to a HousingWire event.
I would agree with Jeremy. There were a lot more decision makers. Like I think, especially in the afternoon after the event, I felt like, and even the night before, I felt like I had way more conversations with people who were there either to learn about what others are doing, but also like who were really hungry to understand what were the different products, right? And who wanted to have conversations. You go to it was really kind of interesting because I feel like you go to a lot of, and not to pick on the MBA, but that's just what I know. So you go to a lot of MBA events and like, as a, vendor, tech partner or whatever, nobody wants to talk to you. It felt like at this event, like everybody, like I was like, oh, this is weird. Like people actually want to talk to me. They actually like want to understand. So there was definitely like a really hungry audience. And to Jeremy's point, I thought a really good mix. I don't think it was like too heavy on the vendors. I think there were a really good mix of, technology companies or founders who have been in the mortgage industry for decades. And then to Jeremy's point, you had some, kind of newer entrants or younger, folks who were just coming out of college or it's just their first startup. Who were there, and so it was a really good series of conversations. Quite frankly, I wish it would have been 2 days, not one.
Can I actually make one quick make sure I answered the whole question you asked too, Chris?
No, Jeremy, you're done. You're cut off.
I'm out. You said the word expert. I think this applies to most CTOs or technologists that are in-house somewhere at a financial institution, lender, broker, whatever. They didn't work on AI themselves. They were never an expert in AI, literally. They've become one. They've learned about it, but they were already CTOs or product leaders or technology team leaders at ongoing companies while this technology was developed. So when you hear from Jason Bressler at UWM or you hear from Sean Malhotra at Rocket, you're not hearing from somebody who actually builds AI, really. You're hearing from somebody who's been running technology teams for really sophisticated companies and has had to figure it out with their expertise just faster and better than I can because of they know how it works. But I don't think, and I could be wrong, but Jason and Sean didn't have like fingers on keyboards building AI ever.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? They've had to like hear from people, learn, and apply it quickly from their own team, their own experts that they tap into. They just know it so much better because they know how the system's built.
Yeah, I think it's interesting calling, PK and has heard me say get reps in, right? Like we've been getting reps in since last August, and that's the only reason why Mace Innovations is so far ahead. PK is our little Slack channel we have of a lot of founders, and it's funny. I thought that we would be always learning from other people, and then we're starting to be like, oh, like check this out, check this out, check this out, and but it really is getting your reps in because there's no keeping up. You can't really have a course to, if I was going to make a course for this to teach in college, I would be like, all right, this is good for one semester.
No, it's good for 2 weeks.
Applications for like understanding, RAG and different core concepts, MCP, that kind of stuff. But I do think it is ever changing.
Was there like a gap that you guys saw in terms of like what vendors were bringing to the table and what lenders actually wanted? And was there any like, where lenders asking for something that no vendor was really, building or essentially bringing to the table from a product perspective?
Andrew, you're good.
You want me to take that one first, Andrew?
I don't know. I feel like this is dangerous. I feel like this is like the most loaded question under the sun. I didn't hear of any, like nobody said anything where like, I really want this. But I think also part of that is people, I think a lot of people don't even necessarily know what they want right now. Like it's for a lot of folks, it's still so new, right? They haven't dipped their toe in. The only thing, and I don't want to sound like a negative Nancy, but there seems to be a lot of like recreation of the same process. And I forget who it was, and maybe Jeremy will remember. Somebody who was on stage was kind of talking about like, you also just need to rethink your process, right? Like you don't need to do things the way you've been doing them since Jump, right? And so, that was the one thing that if I was going to be a little bit of a negative takeaway, it felt like people are kind of jumping to certain applications that already exist, but putting an AI spin on them. And not everybody by any stretch of the imagination, right? But there was a little bit of that. It's sort of like, I mean, we've talked on the show before, and I'm not picking on CRMs or AI CRMs, right? But like, I think we've talked about before, like, I see AI agents replacing the CRM, right? I see how we handle CRMs or how we handle customer relation management for that process to change to a large degree. And I didn't feel like I saw a ton of that. But Jeremy, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the thing that I heard the most was as a lender, I'm being told to start somewhere. Just get started and learn. Start and innovate or iterate. And I think the thing I heard from lenders was if I knew where to start, I'd already be working on that. Like this idea that I need to rethink my whole process, what Andrew said, is true. We heard a lot of that. The problem is these are folks who are being told that even before AI. Improve your process, change management. And if you've worked in change management for a long time, you know that like the adoption, where to begin and how to get it is the hardest part. So I think that was the biggest thing I heard was a lender being like, where do I even begin? It seems like voice AI for sales was the most popular. I stopped because it sounded like maybe I wasn't. Am I cutting out?
No,
No,
you're good.
It was your voice AI.
I do. It sounds
No,
like
Yeah,
Jeremy's
voice
not wrong.
AI
Like,
is the most popular place to start.
Yeah.
yeah.
which I find really interesting because like that's the one that I feel like I would be like that would be like the last thing I would maybe like, and I'm talking about like agents that can talk to borrowers, right? Like, but we did hear a lot about that, right? Which was agents that call out. I, I, you know, you didn't ask this, but I'm going to kind of jump in and I'm gonna plug Pete Bannister and Mova. I thought one of the best products I saw that was talked about on stage was Mova. And Mova it's literally just listens to all the, it's not a voice agent. It listens to all the calls for a call center and really creates new KPIs around all of those calls. And I thought there was I thought it was a really interesting and powerful tool because of the fact that like you can't be everywhere at once, right? You can't listen to every single call, you know, of your LOs or of your servicing centers, right? And so Mova, you know, and they had a gentleman from Prosperity Mortgage that was on a client who was on stage with them who was talking about how like he's actually invented new KPIs that he never had before because now he's got someone. And to me, I was like, man, I'm like, and this says something because I always say like I'm an easy early entry point, but man, is that a great low risk, no risk entry point? Right? It's just listening to calls. It's just giving you feedback and it's giving you KPIs.
So it's like Gong.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe
Well, it's
kind of
100%.
like
Go ahead.
Jeremy.
It's 100% coverage too. That's the other thing is you're taking away a task that somebody had to do that took them all day to cover their whole team, and you're feeding up the solution for 100% coverage with red and green metrics, which people understand already. So that is an example of just a really practical step forward.
Yeah. So what's funny is I was looking at implementing this for one of my clients, an alternative to Gong. And the funny thing is, Andrew and Jeremy, it sounds like you've worked with a lot of mortgage companies, so you'll understand this. As funny is loan officers in the branch model, you got to sell them on this because you would think, oh, dude, it'll take. And they're like, well, someone's gonna know about what I'm saying on my calls all the time and be able to give me feedback. Like So if you don't literally paint them a picture where they're making more money and like, you know, it was like, but the direct to consumer, 100% easy. Pick up the phone, shut up. You're doing what I tell you to. The branches were like, I'll pass. It was interesting. So we're gonna have to wait for that adoption to come along.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, Tammy Richards, who was my fireside, I thought brought up a great point, and it's pretty obvious and simplistic. But when it comes to adoption, I think one of the problems that a lot of people make is they don't explain to the individuals what they gain. Nobody cares about the company. Nobody cares that the company is going to be more efficient. Nobody cares that the company is going to make more money. Nobody cares that the company is going to make better customer service. You're an LO. Explain to me how I'm going to make more money. Explain to me how this is going to be more efficient. Explain to me how I'm going to be able to close borrowers faster, right?
Yeah, but Andrew, this goes back to, it's funny, we're talking about the AI Summit and we're seeing a lot of the same patterns, right? Where do I start? You should have started a long time ago in all things mortgage. Where do I start? You got to tell them what's in it for them. And people have been doing it for years. And, you know, I think Dave Savage and his crew and the mortgage coach people are like, but you get all this. You're like, yeah, but then I have to do it. Nah, like so it is funny. You really do have to give them a value prop. And usually for originators, it has to be in the form of dollars. And if you tell them it saves them time, they're like, yeah, but now you know what I'm saying. But if you tell them you make more money, then it seems to speak.
Well, and I think you have to understand what is the driving force for the individuals in your organization. Right? Does an underwriter want less stress and does an LO want more money?
Yeah.
I think Jeremy was trying to say something a second ago.
No, I mean, I think that it's just the thing that I heard yesterday or this week that was so powerful about what you're talking about is that it can do a lot of the things you want to do, the good habits you want to have, and you don't have time for, you procrastinate or you put off. That's where like the loan officer value prop should be, even in distributed retail, like you're talking about, Chris. Like it should be like I am supposed to be calling my book all the time and checking in on them. I usually put it off, and then I end up realizing that I didn't call them for a year or something. So it is a lot of like figuring out how to deliver up good habits that people really do want to do because it will make them more money or it will lead to more conversions, and just making sure that it's doing that for them.
Hmm.
I'm curious about the, I guess, like the posture. I know, Jeremy, you've talked about like when you're adding technology, something has to be subtracted ultimately, otherwise you're just adding costs. Has the posture, I mean, it sounds like there was a lot of CTOs and like leaders there. Has the posture changed? Because I know we're like, what, 2 years into this cycle of AI, or this, technology being introduced. So like, has the posture changed recently compared to maybe like a year ago?
Yeah, I think so. I think a year ago it was really like, let's test it out and figure out what this is. And I think this year it was, I have to be applying 2 or 3 versions in my company to keep up. So that positioning changed a little bit. What it does to cost, I think, is really up to the lender. There's really 2 camps forming, and I'm sure more. If I can eliminate tasks that ultimately eliminate a job, I'm gonna eliminate that job and try to save money and just keep doing what I do. The other camp is I'm going to eliminate those tasks from that role, and then I'm going to level up that role to add a product or add a channel I didn't have before. So the example I was using all week was condos. Condos are really hard. They're a pain in the butt, but everybody wishes they could do more of them, and there's a lot of them out there. So if you can eliminate a process or doing a convention down to like 1 or 2 things, and you can level them up and put them on fix and flip or condos or some other type of lending that actually brings growth and more product into your business, are you going to do it? Those are the 2 opportunities right now and lenders are going to decide based on their mission, their shareholders, their goals. But those are the 2 camps I heard for me.
Yeah. And Jeremy brings a great point. Like a lot of this, all of a sudden having additional data, right? So whether it's the phone calls, whether it's, our product, right, where we track every question that gets asked, now all of a sudden, not only can you gain efficiencies to add new products, but now you have the information insight to understand what products, right? Like before you have no idea. Like, do I have 150 people calling me for an RTL every single week, right? Or to Jeremy's point, am I getting flooded with condos that I'm saying no to, but I don't actually even know or have any insight into that metric? Do I need to add a DSCR program, to my table? And it's because I've got enough demand that's coming in there, right? Because I think ultimately, and for years and years, we saw, and coming from the secondary side, you had agency shops and you had, non-QM, or subprime, whatever, right? Like those were never generally, at least I don't feel like there wasn't a ton of crossover there, right? And now all of a sudden it's like, you kind of have to be everything. I have to be an agency shop, but also have an RTL product and a DSCR product. And I think a lot of these AI products will help you as a lender start to unlock more product offerings.
The
So there's definitely. I go for it, Chris.
No, I mean, Jeremy, I think may know a lot about distributed retail, but instead of the metric being, I'm not getting business because of this one product, and then you bring in offer that product, and suddenly they don't ever do that product.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect point, right? Like, should I bring on, just because one person told you that, like, oh, I really need RTLs, right? Well, do you actually have the data to show you that you actually should add RTLs into your product line? And I think with a lot of these tools, you now have the opportunity to start to understand, like, And there's a perfect example, right? If you're explaining to the LOs, like, hey, listen, part of why we listen to all these calls is so we can better understand what are the product offerings that we should be adding that make the most sense, right? Things of that nature, right?
Yeah, I think the pendulum that, as the pendulum swings back and forth between these trends, and, Chris mentioned a little bit earlier, we see this pendulum swinging back and forth all the time in tech, trends, adoption, whatever. I think the one that I'm most curious about coming out of this week is data science. I think the data science, we saw a huge effort 5 years ago. Who's your data scientist? How many data scientists are you hiring? And then the pendulum swung all the way to other things, including AI. I think it's going to start swinging back so that there's an actual rigor around what data science you're feeding into models and why, in order to make some of those decisions better, faster, stronger, or maybe even uncover something you couldn't possibly have known. But how you connect those two practices in your shop is going to be really hard and sophisticated for a lot of people. I think so. It's like, are you going to do it yourself, or are you going to rely on a vendor to do it? Something like that.
Interesting.
Or have it embedded in a platform already.
While you see that, since you sort of teed that up, Jeremy, I'd love to sort of touch on this piece, which is if I was gonna have one negative side or complaint, I felt like there was a little bit too much, and Craig Danton actually did a piece about this. There was a little bit too much of making AI sound way easier than it actually is. And I just, and that's not to scare off people, but what I mean is I felt like there was a little bit too much of this, like, oh, you can just build it yourself. Like, go to a GPT Pro account and you can build some custom GPTs and like, you're good to go. Right. And I just, it felt very misleading. And don't get me wrong, there are shops out there who have incredibly impressive technology teams. UWM, Rocket, Rate, who, as a plug to Rate, I still think Rate does it the best, because what they do is they spin up other companies that are technology companies, so it doesn't get it built in there. I'm sorry, Becky Hale just jumped in, so you can build it in 2 days. So
you can also change your logo and just have AI at the end of it in 5 minutes.
That one. So that was sort of my only thing there was, and Jeremy, I'd love to just sort of get your take, right? Is like, I look at like what we've done, and it's like, man, it took us 18 months to get where we're at, and like we're still plowing ahead. Like, I mean, Mason, PK, you guys know, like, prompt engineering is not easy. And I think everybody feels like there's a little bit too much of this, like, and Mace, I'm going to say it. There's this whole, like, I'm going to vibe code my new platform and write all this prompt engineering. And the reality is, like, you don't have 20 years of engineering experience. You don't have 10 years of engineering experience to understand how to do these things.
So totally. Like, and like, we've been, I said again, we've been getting our reps in, right? So we've done probably more than 97% of companies out there. We've done more custom solutions. There's a few of them, like I kind of hinted on LinkedIn, people start knowing that we were the ones that built some of the platforms they're talking about. But like, we keep doing it all day, every day. And like, it almost reminds me of people who used to be like, well, I want to like train my person inside to be an Encompass admin who can write their own plugins and stuff. And I'd be like, cool. Within 60 days, all that information is gone. Like, you're not doing it all the time, right? Like, you need someone who's doing it all the time. So it's like the invention of the bulldozer, right? Like, we dig ditches for a living, but now we do it with a bulldozer. That doesn't mean you're going to give me the bulldozer. Like, you got to let the people who are engineers, like, because I look at solutions too all the time where I'm like, yeah, if I didn't know what I was doing, I would be like completely lost here. But you still have to stop the hallucinating. You have to learn how to do, context engineering is what we're calling it now, is a big thing for us, and especially with the enterprise level product. But yeah, you can't just be like, yeah, lender, do it yourself. It's like, cool, you have a lovable app that is conceptually pretty cool. Now you need to pay someone to integrate it. Thank you for your proof of concept. It could have been a PowerPoint, but it's not really actually going to do some live like help.
That you can build prototypes.
Yeah. What's that, Andrew?
No, I mean, that's for prototype. Like,
Yeah.
you can come up with a prototype. You can test it with 1 or 2 people, and then let's build something that's production. Let's build something that's production grade. Jeremy, what are your kind of thoughts around this?
I think you're spot on. It's still mortgage, and it's still really hard, and it is always going to be hard to figure this stuff out. And yes, these tools are making they're making certain friction points easier to address. They're making experts more expert. And I do think there is a well-worn path of success for technology when it makes an expert more expert. But it's still hard to win in business. I don't care what tools you have. It's still really hard to win. And so like it is, there was a lot of people making it too easy. Easier said than done, those types of things. So yes, you have to do it, but it's still going to be hard. It's still going to be painful. It's part of change management. It's going to be a pain. But
well, and that's the other piece of it, right? Is like I keep hearing people talk about building, right? And I'm like, well, who's maintaining? Well, who's I said it in my post this morning. I was like, so who's going to who's going to troubleshoot bugs? Who's going to answer the internal support tickets, right? Who's like, and maybe I'm not saying you don't have that staff, like you very well may, right? But you need to evaluate as an organization, like, do I have those people, and are they going to be able to do those things? I still thought my favorite quote, and I think I even told Jeremy before I even went on stage that he was going to hear it from Tammy, but Tammy Richards had one of my favorite quotes, which is, on the build versus buy. And I asked her, what's your number one question? She goes, if it's already built, why would you build it? Why wouldn't you buy it? Like, it was so simple, but it was like, if I have the team to build something, go solve a problem nobody else is solving, right?
What was the posture in the room though? Was and I'm curious where your talk ended up. Like, I guess, like, what was the, I don't know, conclusion that people came to? Like, are people looking to build or buy, or like a mix of both?
I love it. I'll get Jeremy's input on this. I think most people, at least most people I've spoken to, minus the rates, the NAFs, the new reses, right? Most people are looking to buy. Mm-hmm. I think most people have like tried some stuff out on GPT. And maybe they've built a custom GPT. I don't know. And they've realized, you know what? Like, I don't actually know. I actually can't do this. Right. It's not getting the accuracy level that they want. Right. The reality is 88% accuracy from GPT is not going to cut it in your mortgage shop.
Yeah. So, Andrew, I think you said Jeremy's going to have to go at the 30-minute mark.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he'll stick on as he freezes.
As he freezes.
And he's gone.
Wow.
He just said sayonara.
So maybe he'll have do you have a question? Oh, see, there you go. You ran him away, Mace. Maybe he'll come back then. We'll find out. What was your question? What's your question?
Well, no, I was going to say, just tell them thank you for being here, and tell us like how people can get a hold of you, or what are you working on now? The answer to that well,
we're going to find out. We'll see if he jumps back in.
Yeah. So when you're talking about build versus buy, are you talking about more of the SLMs or LLM, like SLM kind of internal stuff, or like?
No, I'm talking about like anything. Like, I mean, when you look at like, again, I mean, I don't mean to pick on Rocket and UWM, right? But generally speaking, they state, and I say they state because I'm not part of their organization, so can't sit here and tell you definitively that they build everything, right? But that's what they state. For those folks, there you go. There's Jeff.
I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed that this works, because I didn't want to leave on that note. I didn't want to end it that way. So the point I was going to make was, I think everyone is going to want to control their instance, but I think this is going to go a lot the way of like what environment you work in, similar to how Azure versus AWS versus whatever other cloud stack. And then on top of that, you might put your BI model that you choose to be in, whether it's Snowflake or Databricks or like whatever. I think this is going to go very similar to that. I want to be able to control my instance, but I'm going to have to align with some existing model that I build off of or that I control. And is that going to be embedded in the same technology environment that I bought, because I'm a Microsoft shop, then it's going to be this, or because I'm a Google shop, it'll be Gemini. Like I see a lot of lenders who are like, I can't build it the way those providers can build it, but I've got to control something if I need to continue to differentiate. And so they're not going to build their own AI, but they're going to really struggle with how to build on top of which thing and how they choose to do that. So I think the answer to your question is much more buy, but it's buy and then try to build in a way that I feel like I have control, and I just don't know how that's going to work. To what Andrew was saying when I dropped.
Yeah, generally speaking, I would tend to agree. I would tend to agree with that. But again, I think also I just don't want lenders to feel like, oh God, I have to build on my own.
Correct.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the reality is there is unquestionably enough solid products out there right now that you can go get something off the shelf. Also, there's a lot of solid products out there who offer free proof of concepts, right? So there's a lot lower risk, I feel like, with AI. You know what I mean? Like in certain areas, I understand there's some things that people can't do proof of concepts because it's too big and there's too much of a build out and all of that. But there is enough that like you can definitely get started and start heading down that road. Because also the other thing is to say like what I'm talking about right now is based on where the tech is today. When I look at where we were last year at the HousingWire AI Summit compared to where we are this year, I mean, dude, you can't even compare those summits. Like the difference between the two. Like, it was such a higher caliber this year. So I just feel like next year, more than likely, like we're probably going to take another leap forward.
Yeah, I'm really talking about what people implied that they felt versus what they should do. Because Andrew, you're exactly right. People like expressed the desire to want to control more about their technology, but they shouldn't need to, and they don't have to. They just like feel that they want to. The reality is next year, this time, you could probably start a mortgage company from scratch and run it entirely on technology for 80% less people than you have today. If you wanted to, it's just nobody's doing that, but you could. Well, I think you could plan for that, and I think it would actually be there.
The other thing is, who are you comparing yourself to, right?
Well, a lot of these lenders think that, I'm going to the Encompass conference. Every lender thinks all the other lenders are on the web, and they all sit down like, you're not on the web? No, you're not. I'm not on the web. And everybody's like, oh, I thought we were supposed to be on the, and it's like, nobody's on the freaking web. Okay. And nobody. And so everybody's like, feels like they're like missing out. So like, oh, you're using AI? No. What are you doing? Oh, I'm not doing anything either. So I think,
yes, like, right. Exactly.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. And I'll be interested. I'll probably catch some heat on this hot take.
Bring it.
UWM is not a mortgage company. UWM is a technology company who leverages technology to get loans delivered to them. And Jason Bressler basically said that on stage, right? There's a reason Jason has 1,600 or 1,800 or whatever it is technology staff. They build tech that they give to brokers for free. Again, Jason, this is what Jason said, that they give to brokers for free in the hopes that those brokers deliver all their loans to UWM. That is how UWM started.
Yeah, so he's like a playbook that I used to use, like a technology like drug dealer. Like the first dose is free. Like get them hooked. And send my loans to you.
100%. Why do you think I give Bob away for free? But my point in that is like, if you're an IMB, stop comparing yourself to UWM. Stop even listen. No offense, Jason, if you happen to hear this, like, don't even listen to them. Like, it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like,
it has to be yours. It's like whenever people are like, "Oh, look at this billionaire's morning routine," and I'm like, "Yeah, he does that because he's a billionaire now. Like, he didn't do that when he was getting to be a billionaire. Like, so like, do the things that are going to help you on your journey, because everybody's at different parts of their journey. Everybody's got like, oh, well, we struggle with this area, and I've been at tables before. I'm sure Jeremy's has seen this, where like people are just like, we can't seem to get this one aspect of our process right. And there's another company over here that doesn't think they have their shit together. Like, oh, we got that down. All right, we're actually got something right." So yeah, I think you need to look at where you are in your journey for sure. So how do you see the ideas from this summit applying over the next 12 months? Like, what do you like? Like, what does the next 12 months look like for these lenders? Are they actually going to go do some of this stuff, Jeremy? Like, do you think they're going to be like what you said? The next summit would be a little different, but how do you think lenders are going to take action from here?
Yeah, I do think that desire to be doing something, so that when you do go to MBA annual or look across the table at the next workshop or the next event and somebody says, "Are you doing something?" It's like, yeah, we're trying something, right? Whether that is a chatbot, whether it's outbound call routing and outbound, whether it's an intake form or something. I do think that's going to start at the front end with sales and marketing.
They should do a survey to see how many people actually end up like doing something, or like even either buying a product or building something or whatever change that comes out of this, and see where people end up.
I think we'll see a lot of action. The one thing to note about it was, and again, I was there last year, so I recall last year I had no problem getting a seat. Right. I could not find a fucking seat this time. I mean, I gave up my, I sat for the first, for Jason's, because I was third speaker. So I sat through Jason's, and then went back to the speaker room, spoke, went back to sleep. When I came back out, I was literally, I was standing at the very back of the room, and I could barely find a spot to stand. I went out. I then made the mistake of going out to get coffee a little bit later. I came back in. I couldn't even get out of the hallway. Like, I couldn't even get into. I couldn't even see when the Rocket CTO was on stage. I couldn't get into the room. Like, I couldn't see. I could hear him from the friggin' little hallway, but I couldn't even get into the room. Like, so it was abundantly clear. I think we may have lost Jeremy. It was abundantly clear that like people were hungry to hear this. The other thing I think we're going to see, that at least I hope, and I have already seen in the day two past the summit, and I said this on stage was to people, is I said, go have conversations. I said, and I just used myself as an example. I said, I am more than happy to have whatever conversations with whatever lenders. And what I hope I imparted on them was, tech partners, even for those of us who come from the mortgage industry, right? I was, there you go. All right. If anyone from HousingWire is watching, Becky Hale agrees with me. It should be a 2-day event, and it should be a bigger venue. Fantastic point. I'm going to show the next comment in a moment, but let's finish up here. I have had a lot of reach outs from lenders post the event who just want to sit down and talk, not necessarily about my product, right? But just want to talk about AI. And I made it very abundantly clear on the stage. It's like, I just want to hear from people. What problems do you think are cool? Right? What do we want to do? what do you want to do? What are you hoping to see? Right. Like I started as an underwriter. Like I understand mortgage, right? But I'm not in the trenches day to day right now. Right. Like it's been a hot minute since I've been in that seat. And so I'm hoping that we'll see a lot more questions. This is like the most dangerous question from a LinkedIn user. I don't even know who's asking the question. Somehow this just felt like
LinkedIn user.
Okay, I'm not gonna say. I'm gonna answer. I'm gonna take a somewhat politically correct answer probably to this question from the LinkedIn user. But all right, fine. I'll put it back up there. Listen, I don't think I think UWM again is a technology company that caters to brokers, right? Obviously, that's what they are, right? As an organization. So the LinkedIn user said sorry. And again, I think Jeremy's point, neither Jason nor, and I apologize, I forget his name, the CTO at Rocket, Sean, thank you, are not, writing code every single day, right? Just like I'm not. We obviously all know that, but so I felt like both made it sound a little bit easier than it is, but also like I don't have 1,800 technologists, right? So it's hard for me to state what they can do and what they can't. It did feel like there were some points in time in which I sort of was questioning, like, what are you talking about that you built as a prototype that you're testing versus what did you build that's like an actual full rollout, like enterprise grade, right? That was the one thing that I was sort of like, and I mean, I hate to say it, but you always have to be a little bit leery, I think, of what people are saying on stage because, that's what they're going to do, right? Just naturally is talk about it. My only question for some of these organizations is I'm hearing from a lot of organizations who are claiming, and I'll call Sunwest out on this one. I got no problem doing that. Actually, I'll probably get banned or blocked or something. But if you're all of a sudden you're and I'm just talking about Sunwest because they're claiming that they can originate a loan for $200, right? And so if that's true, where are the layoffs? That's what I want to understand. For the people I'm hearing who are claiming that they're cutting 50%, 75% of their originations cost, time, process, etc., and your origination volume is not going up, it may actually even be going down, and you're a huge, huge shop, and I'm not hearing about any layoffs whatsoever, that's where I start to be like, okay, the math's not fully adding up for me.
The math is not mathing.
Are you sure? So you're saying mortgage companies will do layoffs whenever they need to? Is that what you're implying? Are you implying the fire hire cycle of mortgage is a thing?
Chris, I had this idea. You should, at the next AI Summit, that guy that he puts up like a bench, he goes to like college campuses, and then he has like the coffee.
Change my mind.
Yeah, changed my mind.
This is actually Becky is on fire with great points today. This is actually a really good point by Becky, right? Also is, and this could explain why we're not seeing a big change in terms of the number of people is they may in fact, and to give them credit, where I actually hadn't thought about this until right now. They could be using a lot of those people for R&D.
Her comment, though, I think was targeting UWM whenever we were talking about that. That was a couple minutes ago.
Oh, well, but anyways, the point being is they could be utilizing those people for things for much more R&D and have the things that are in place that are working or aren't working. So
I do think when it comes to, it reminds me of how we took our shift to AI last August, right? And like we're about a year ahead of a lot of people. And we just quietly shifted because we had time on our hands because we did an asset sale, right? And I remember having my Sean on my team, like I kept sending him stuff and he'd be like, yeah, that's really cool, man. I'm, check it out later. That was kind of the vibe. And then I had to like get, like show him how I was using it just for a day to program, because I built like a Chrome extension or something. And then he took the ball from me and made me look like an idiot. And now PK sees him and what we've done
Sean's
with
a legend.
servers and Ubuntu servers and like all the projects we've done and like all the different modeling. Like he went like this and we just went crazy. But until you have that little moment, like that little like ding, let's go try this. I do think a lot of people are like, that's cool. Like this AI stuff seems cool. We'll try that later. And I think that's the vibe. But the UWM I've got a lot of these people. We're going to take 50 of you and make you just focus on this one thing. And a mortgage company can't do that.
100%. Yeah. But again, that's why, like, I would just say and it's why, like, I wanted my fireside chat to be small to mid-sized lenders, right? That because I wanted, and when I was doing the talk, like, I'm not talking to Fairway, I'm not talking to Rate, I'm not talking to UWM, right? And I want to make sure if you're Ruoff Mortgage, like, compare yourself against Hallmark. Sorry, that was two like Indiana shout outs that nobody knows probably. But like, look at the people, have conversations with the people. That's the one thing I will say was the one vibe that I just absolutely loved was how incredibly collaborative and helpful the whole industry felt like at the event. The number of people who like came up to me and were like, hey, let me introduce you to so-and-so. They really need to know you. Right. Or, and sort of vice versa. There really was a lot of that at the event versus people being sort of like protective, from that perspective. So it was good to see. But that's what I would say. Like, look at, go have conversations with folks who are similar to you. Look at folks who listen to them, follow them, see what they're doing.
One or two steps ahead or kind of on the same path. And then.
Yeah, exactly.
I do love anything else because I'm already seeing people ask me for exclusivity in some weird areas. And I'm just like, no, like it's funny how I love when the collaboration happens, but then mortgage companies are just like, all right, no exclusivity, but you promise you won't work with any other company in Texas. I'm like, no, like these things are coming up. I'm not lying to you. And one of them was something in regards to like product and pricing and loan comparison stuff. And I was like, that pigeonholes too many options. And I'm glad to see that they're the kind of people there that are willing to share and collaborate. I love to hear that.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, it feels like the industry. I've been doing this for almost 25 years, and I don't know. Obviously for everybody, the last 3-4 years have been rough, and I don't know if it's because like the industry is at such a great tipping point, and because it's been such a rough go for so many years that everybody now is sort of coming together and just being like, Jesus Christ, how do we help each other? Right? Like how do we keep this thing afloat, and how do we get better, and how do we improve the housing industry as a whole? Not just mortgage. I wonder if that is, reducing the gatekeeping and starting this much more of the collaboration.
Did you guys, I'll go for it, Chris.
No, PK.
I was going to say about like long-term thinking versus short-term thinking. I think that's like one thing we've definitely seen. Like when times are bad, that's when everybody's like, oh, we should probably do some technology implementation or, rethink our processes. But then when times are good, it's like nobody cares about it. So like was there any conversation around all of that?
It's always like I'm too broke when the market's down, and I'm too rich and busy when the market's up. Exactly. Right? Like that's always been like the bane of the existence of a tech vendor or tech provider. I think now is a little bit different, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, again, as I mentioned, I think there's a lot of people out there doing free proof of concepts. There's a lot of people willing to like have these conversations. and do these things, right? I think the other side of it is, in many instances, the ROI is crystal clear, right? And so it's much easier for you to say. It's different when somebody's like, oh, I've got a new fancy CRM, or oh, I've got a new fancy POS, right? And you've already got the CRM and the POS, and you're like, okay, do I really want to spend the time and the energy and the money to swap these things out, right? I think with a lot of these products, the other thing is like, you got to remember, a lot of these AI products are like wicked fast in their implementation, right? So when you look at a lot of these touch points that people are doing, you're not looking at, it's not like swapping out an LOS, right? Or swapping out a POS, right? You're looking at, if you look at MOVA, and I don't want to quote because I don't actually know what MOVA's setup time is, but I have to imagine MOVA's setup time is really, really quick, right? It probably doesn't take very much. There was, damn it. Does anybody remember the company, the kid from Stanford that Rick Rock, the guy, I shouldn't say kid. That Rick Rock, what was his company?
Is it Flare?
Flare. I think it's Flare Labs. There you go. But like Flare Labs, they say that their implementation timeline is less than 2 weeks, right? So you're not seeing like the super heavy lifting with a lot of the AI tech that traditionally you've seen in new tech. Also like when you go back to like RPA, right? And that level of automation, that always tended to take a really long time, and have a lot of, heavy lifting that had to be done on the implementation side. What's Mace is shaking his head.
Oh, RPA may as well be a 4-letter word for me. Like,
no, I'm totally
like, if I heard people talking about bots and RPA and all those CTOs that were, I'm gonna get in trouble. So anyway,
no, I mean, it's a great point. Like our very first client who we were competing against, who people always tell me is a competitor of ours, and I always tell them they're not, but whatever. They're predominantly RPA, right? There's just a shit ton of if-then statements, right? Yeah. And I swear to God, I think the reason we won that account was just because of the setup time. Because I was like, we'll do it in less than a week. And the RPA was like 2 months or 3 months, or, and required a ton of input, from the lender themselves. Right.
Right. So Andrew, you were there. Becky, if you're still here, bring some more fire. What would be a session or topic you would add to next year's event?
By the way, I was gonna say, send Becky the link and she can just join.
What I would have liked to, what I actually is an out. So I agree with whoever said it should be 2 days and it should be a bigger venue. Number one. I really would have liked to have seen a tech demo area. I'm not saying necessarily the stage had to be that, but it would have been cool. For anybody who's been to the gathering, again, HousingWire just kills it with Brenna and the whole team over there. Friggin' amazing with how they put on these events. At the gathering, they do it really well where they have this area that have tech vendors who can demo. And it's literally like they have a screen and their laptop and they get to show their product up on the screen. I think I would have liked to seen an addition of something like that like in the morning and during lunch and during the happy hour, that people could see the different products. Because for me, even as a founder, like, and I'm sure you both feel the same way, like I want to see what people are doing.
Do you think it would be over their heads to like, like, let's just say I was to kind of explain to someone and show them a little bit of a deeper dive in tech of like, here's how the AI model is working. and what it's really doing behind the scenes? Is that too nerdy in the weeds, you think?
No, not necessarily, because I think that would be nerdy enough for some people at the event. I think it probably would be too much for others, right? But like, you know, I want to know what people are doing that's cool and works, right? Like I feel bad that I like always talk. I mean, I only talk about MOVA, I feel, but like Indie Mortgage, right? Indie Mortgage was there. Like they're doing some really cool stuff, right? I'm going to agree with Becky on this one too. The other thing I wish we would have seen is more small to mid-size lenders. Again, I'm not trying to like trash UWM and Rocket here. Like, I know people love to hear from them. I know people love to see them on stage, right? But like, I would like to know, what is CR Pacific Mortgage doing, right? I would like to know, what is AMB.
Well, so no, Becky, we're going to have Highlands. I know Becky works there. I know Becky well. And we're going to start working together. And Becky's going to be up on stage next year.
There you go, Becky.
There you go.
So yeah, that was, yeah, that I think would be the biggest thing. I think tech demos, and again, getting some, and getting operational people up there, right? Like, again, the thing I loved about MOVA's, you know, MOVA's talk was 100% a full commercial for MOVA. Well played, Peter, by the way. You did a phenomenal job. But what was brilliant about it was they had the guy from Prosperity Mortgage who's using the product on stage talking about the use of the product, right? And so that to me was really powerful, was to hear from a lender who's actually using something and what their experience is in using that product. Becky's got you. So we'll see you on stage next year, Becky. Chris is paying for all of
it. Who's Chris? It says Mace on this thing.
Who's this Chris person?
So you talked a little bit about the venue. So it sounds like next year is probably going to be even bigger. You think the bigger venues on the docket?
I don't know. You have to call Clayton. I don't think so, because I think they've already locked in next year, because tickets are already for sale. But you know, I don't know. I'll push Clayton on that one.
Well, then
by the way, they got really nice. They got new offices in downtown Dallas that they hosted their party afterwards at. That was awesome. Thank you, Becky. Becky's got to drop.
My wife just told me I have chicken ready, so yeah.
Because we got to drop. Mace, it's like 3:30. You're eating dinner.
He's American.
More like Linner. Because I didn't eat lunch or breakfast, so.
I didn't either, actually. So, and I still have to cook dinner for everybody. So, yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'll have to tell Brenna and Clayton, like, let's move this somewhere else, double it up. Let's go.
Yeah.
Where was it this time, by the way? Dallas?
So it's always both years they've had it. It's at the George Bush Library in Dallas, and it's a little bit constrained because it's only about 500 seats. I think is where they're kind of limited, 520 from that perspective. But I will say the one thing I love about HousingWire events is the way they design them is you have to sign, like you have to be a registered. So you don't get that, you know, at MBA events, you get this like, you know, a couple thousand extra people who never even register for the event, but like hang out like on the fringe. And it becomes very meeting based. I think for HousingWire, to their benefit, it is a much more informative and social event and does not feel a lot like a conference. So
interesting.
Well, kudos to HousingWire crushing it again.
Yeah. Clayton's friggin' CEO of the year for sure. So all right, guys. So it sounds like all of us have to go eat except PK.
Yeah, Andrew, we have to end with you. Since you're a guest, technically, you get to ask our next guest a question. All right, guys. Thank you.
Kevin, what is PRMG doing with AI? There you go.
All right. I will see you guys from Hawaii next week.
Oh,
Are
exciting.
you going to Hawaii? Oh, nice.
Yes, sir.
I got to give Chris shit about this.
Hey, Andrew, I do it like real founder style, like one vacation every 4 years, not PK, who's like one every.
Oh, no. Real founders, and you work on your vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
Padawan PK, you got to learn.
The new generation.
There is no balance. There's only work.